Wednesday. I'm Danny Gregory, and this is the live drawing party. Today is April 29th, and it's yet another hellishly nice day here in Phoenix, Arizona. I see that the weather varies depending on where you are, but thanks for joining me. Today, I'm going to recruit you to be an evangelist for drawing. So the theme of today's party is basically how to get anyone to draw anyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some ways to get people who are leery of drawing at all to maybe make a drawing that's kind of cool and that's fun to make, and we can have fun doing it together and teaching them. Or maybe this is for you. Maybe this is just a way of you warming up or a way of you feeling more comfortable with drawing. We'll see. So maybe the anyone is you. So we're going to get to that in a minute. I want to tell you about a few other things that are going on. Well, first of all, as is my want, actually, I'm going to switch here for a second. As is my want, we are going to ask you if you want to share any drawings that you make today. Please use this hashtag SBS Drawing Party when you put it on social media so we'll know where it is. That's important. Write it down. Another thing I want to tell you about is something I haven't mentioned before, but I think is potentially really important. We at Sketchbook School want to support all of the people who are considered essential workers. So that definition is people who are participating in certainly things like healthcare, but there's lots of other variations of that term. And if you know anybody, or if you yourself are an essential worker, we'd like you to take a free course at Sketchbook School. And there are details about it here at the what we call the Coronavirus Creativity Guide, which is something I've mentioned before, which is a terrific resource that we've been building at sketchbookschool.com. And it contains all kinds of stuff like this live drawing party, like tips, like other videos you can watch, things you can download, and there's also information about this essential worker program that we have put out there. So if you or somebody you know fits that category and feels like learning to draw or starting to draw or continuing to draw would be a great help and support, going through the stressful jobs that essential workers have, we want to support them too by giving them a free course. We've given, I think, over 500 so far this week. So there's a lot of people who need this, and we want to support them and give it to them. So please go there, and you might, even if you're not an essential worker, you might find other things that are useful in helping you. So please go and check that out. All right, what else do I have to tell you about today? Oh yes, and also while you're at sketchbookschool.com, go to /Danny's-list and sign up for this quasi-newsletter, I guess it is, that I've been working on, where I'll send you essays and ideas, thought starters, challenges, kind of a written version in some ways of what we're doing here at the live drawing party. So as I'm sitting around musing, beard stroking, pipe smoking, I don't have a beard or a pipe, but you know what I mean. As I'm thinking of stuff, I'm writing it down, I'm writing essays, and I'm sending them out to anybody who's on my list. So go there, add your name to it, and I will send you some cool stuff. Okay. And finally, I also want to remind you about the brush and line, our watercolor and ink workshop with Omar that we've talked about before, but you can also sign up for that. It's coming up in a couple weeks. It's going to be an incredible live event where we're going to teach you a technique that I think is going to really change how you think about drawing and watercoloring. So I would urge you to go and look at that. So lots of stuff going on, and all of it can be found at sketchbookschool.com. a fantastic hub of the sprawling sketchbook school media empire. So thank you all for joining me today. Emanuela in Italy, and David in Minnesota, and Renata, and various other people. So as I mentioned, today is going to be about learning a really simple technique that allows you to draw people and to use your imagination. And it's something that you can use to introduce to other people who are afraid of drawing or think they have no talent for drawing. And this can be kind of an icebreaker um, for them. So here we go. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to introduce my trusty iPad. Um, now you don't need to use an iPad for this. For those of you who are interested in technology, I'm using a giant iPad. I'm using Procreate. I'm using various tools. It doesn't really matter. None of that matters. What you can do with what we're about to do, you can do with a marker, a ballpoint pen, a pencil, uh, an old grocery bag. It doesn't really matter. All right, guys. So one of the things when it comes to drawing people, a lot of people say they can't even draw a stick figure. Let's draw a stick figure and see how hard is that. Okay, so there's a stick figure. Right, we're all familiar with this guy, the stick figure. So what is it about the stick figure? It sort of represents a person, but it's also a person in a completely inexpressive, um, wooden, frozen kind of place. I'm surprised when people say they can't draw this. I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't be able to. It's basically an O, a T, and an upside down V. So if you can write those letters, O, T, upside down V with some feet, you can draw a stick figure. But, um, you know, I mean, and you can sort of give it a face, but it's still, I don't think any of us consider that to be drawing, and we don't really know where to go with it. It's not really um, expressive or what we want. So let's get rid of him. Come on. All right. It's going to be hard. So I want to talk about a technique that I learned about from an artist named Ivan Brunetti. So Ivan Brunetti is he's a cartoonist, a graphic novelist, if you will. Really more of a cartoonist. In fact, he wrote a really essential book called Cartooning. Some of you may have heard about him from Linda Barry, who is another really fantastic writer, and she's primarily a cartoonist, but she's also a writer and a teacher about creative matters. But Ivan Brunetti is um, a theorist to some extent about cartooning. And a lot of what he talks about and thinks about is what are the essentials that you need to communicate graphically? What are the really the rudimentary elements that make up a comic, right? And by understanding that, you can understand, the building blocks that help you to figure out how to tell stories, how to evoke emotion, how to suggest all the things that we want in a story, time passing, events happening, locations, all those kinds of things. So again, this is far beyond the scope of what I was planning to talk about today, but Ivan Brunetti is certainly somebody worth looking into. You can find stuff about him on the internet. So, but he came up with this way of explaining a way of drawing people that I want to talk about today. So, what are the elements that we need to convey a person? So, let's say we need a head. Let's make it a nice big head. Why? Because we want to have room for emotion. We want to have room to put in an expression, to put in some characteristics that make it a particular person, or a known kind of entity. And then we also want to have a body, but the body's probably less important. So we can make it a bit smaller. We can just make it kind of that sort of a shape, right? And then we want to have arms and legs. Now, arms and legs in the stick figure, as we saw before, are, there are these weird outstretched things like that. And that's, how often are you in that position outside of like a yoga class or you're going to hug somebody or you're being crucified? It's not useful. So instead, we want to have limbs that are a bit more expressive. So he suggests like, what if you just make kind of like floppy noodles? And the idea of noodles are things that we can, there's, they're, they're flexible, they're expressive, they're kind of fun, they're sort of dancy. And then, let's put down a couple of legs, and then we want to have some feet. So let's talk about feet and hands, because that's, again, a thing that people who don't know how to draw are often very worried about. So let's just say, look, you can just draw a foot like that. It doesn't have to be um, a specific Nike shoe style. It can just be a little kind of oval like that. And hands, you can just draw a palm and then you can just draw some fingers off it if you want to. Why not? Just make it simple. So already this person has more personality, I think, than the stick figure. Okay, so what else do we want to do? We want to put in some eyes. We want to put in a nose and a mouth, excuse me. Now, those elements so far that we've shown, those are really simple, right? Um, those are not a challenge. Anybody who can doodle can draw those things. But right now, this guy looks a little bit like a 5-year-old drew him, which is fine. Um, but let's see if we can figure out ways to individualize him. Okay? So let's say I wanted to make a self-portrait using this technique. And again, if you go and speak to somebody who's a brand new drawer who's never drawn before, the idea of doing a self-portrait seems terrifying. But let's break it down and see if we can make it simple. So what can we say about me if this is a portrait of me? Well, I might say, you know what, I'm going to put in these eyes, and then I'm going to make glasses. Again, fairly simple. I'm going to give me some ears, because I do have 2 of them. And what else? You might say, well, I kind of have lines coming down here on the side of my face. So that might make it and I have a little thing there. All right, so it's starting to look a bit more like me. I kind of have eyebrows. What else? I have sort of unkempt hair. Normally I'm immaculately groomed, but unfortunately my styling choices have been limited by this, I don't know, what is it, a global pandemic? Yeah, kind of gotten in the way of my grooming. What else? I can say, well, you know what, I'm wearing a black t-shirt. So let me give myself that. Whoops. Give myself a black t-shirt, and let me give it some arms. Let me make the t-shirt have some arms. And what else? I am wearing pants. You can't see them now, but let's say I want to indicate that I'm wearing shorts because it's hot here. And maybe if I wanted to, I could. I'm not going to get too heavily into coloring things in, but let's just say, for the sake of illustration, I want to color these in, and you might want to do the same. So therefore, I'm showing, okay, this is what I'm wearing today, and it's pretty simple to draw. What else? So this is kind of like a very rudimentary me, but I think as you can see, like even if you've never drawn before, you could do this thing that looks like a self-portrait. Okay. So now what are we going to do? We're going to say, well, um, let's see if we can start to create some characters using this. So let's say we wanted to take me and we wanted to start me again. And this time we wanted to, I'm going to draw me again. Let me just make it a bit fatter. Um, Draw me again. I'm going to draw that body shape. Well, body shape could be a bit lumpier. And I'm going to draw some legs. I'm going to draw my hands. But let's say, and then this time I'm going to draw myself looking to the side. So simple enough. There I am. And, I have my eyebrows. I have my ear. And put a little question mark in there. Now it looks like an ear canal. Um, Here's my hands. But it's not me, the guy sitting here. It's me, the cowboy version. So, again, in the interest of playing, we can say, all right, let's make him into a cowboy. And, what would that be like? Maybe I want to erase this part of his head so that it's more, there we go. And, I just want to think about like, well, what else can he's kind of in a cowboy stance, let's say. So let's give him, um, you know, guns, as cowboys are wont to have, and a big buckle. And maybe he has one of those weird shirts that cowboys would wear. They're kind of like chef shirts. Am I making this up? He's a little bit like a bobby, like a British policeman. Um, but yeah, so and then I want to give him cowboy boots. So now what I'm able to do is I'm starting to tell a story with these drawings, right? I'm starting to uh, kind of pull it all together and give him some kind of unique qualities that make him a cowboy. And maybe he also needs one of these. So this simple technique, again, it doesn't look necessarily. Oh, I know what he needs chaps. Then it looks like he hasn't shaven his fat legs for a while, but let's just say that he has those chaps with tassels. So um, if you can go to a person who's apprehensive about drawing and just say, well, let's start to play around with these kinds of elements, it allows you to just kind of break it down, just break down the anxiety that we might have about drawing, and so it allows you to start to express yourself creatively and to realize like how great it is to be able um, to play this way, and that's what drawing can be. Is it can be playful. It doesn't have to be grimly serious and difficult. So let's say I want to do an astronaut version of me. What would that be like? So maybe I'm wearing some kind of a helmet and have some sort of various. Maybe I have big gloves on, like I guess astronauts do. Don't they have big gloves? And maybe I have sort of little circles and knobs and twiddly bits, and then I have some sort of hose that gives me air, and maybe I have like a little antenna on the top to communicate back to Earth. And I'm wearing like big, fat, clompy boots, and maybe I have my spaceship over here, and I'm tethered to it. So these are the kinds of games that we used to play when we drew as kids, and it's something that I think we've lost touch with, in our attempt to make art with a giant capital A, and that making art has become such an intimidating business that we feel incapable of expressing ourselves at all. And so getting back to playing this way makes it so much less threatening. And it's also a place that begins, it begins to remind you of how nice it was to play and draw like this, and how you miss it. You miss that feeling. And this can eventually lead you, of course, to drawing from observation, which would be great, but it doesn't seem like such a high barrier to get to, right? Um, because when you think about drawing from reality, from observation, the very first things you do are going to be disappointing because it's a brand new skill, and you don't feel comfortable, you haven't learned the rules, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed and to give up. And instead of doing the practicing that's required to gain some sense of confidence, so if you play around with things like this and you say, okay, I can do this, I can make a funny character, and it's just a game. It's not a profession. It's not it's not something scary. So I've taken that first step that's reminded me of what the goal of this whole thing is going to be. And that goal is freedom and fun, and not a sense of failure and humiliation, but it's actually a reminder of where I came from and what I used to do, you know. And so it also, I think, starts to give you comfort in drawing lines. It reminds you that ultimately drawing lines and handwriting, remember handwriting? It's a thing that people used to do with pens on paper before phones took over. That those pleasures are within reach, and they are something that you can get back to if you give yourself the chance. And so, what I would say to you is if you already know all this and you're like, yeah, 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 I got it, um, then maybe you can go out and you can evangelize for drawing, and you can say, hey, friend, relative, spouse, neighbor, why not draw with me? And let's see, if you're able to actually do something surprising, something that will surprise yourself. Um, so, and again, this is a long shot, I think, from the stick figure. It is, after all, Batman. And how bad could that be? But also, once you start to kind of develop characters like this, then you can say, all right, I now know how to draw this body. So let me play around with other things I can do with this character, so I can start to tell a story with him, and make up something completely new doesn't just have to be Batman standing there looking quizzical. It could be Batman at the supermarket looking for toilet paper. So you could tell a story about Batman because now you've got this basic tool. And, but you may want to tell a story, you may not want to do a comic, you might want to tell a story about your grandparents, so maybe you can use this technique to say, all right, let me tell you a story about my grandparents. And, you know, like my grandfather, he he was bald and he had a small beard and he he was a doctor. Give him a stethoscope. So these tools are about play, right? They're not about professionalism. They're not about again art museums and galleries and auctions. They're on a different continuum, and that's a continuum that we are reminded of because we did this long ago. We played when we were small, and we played with art making. So can we get back to that? And just start doing it for the sake of it. Because again, one of the things that we knew as kids was that drawing and art making was a fun game. It was a process, not a result that mattered. It didn't matter whether what we made was unique or valuable or professional level. What we knew about art making back then was that it was fun. And it was a way of thinking. It was a way of generating ideas. It was, it was natural. It felt like what we think, we just knew how to do it. And so, um, can we get back to that in our art making? Because I guarantee you that if you are able to achieve this relationship with art making, it will allow you to make the kind of progress that um, allows you to do really good art, good drawings, good art. It allow you to draw from representation because you won't be in this internal struggle about the quality of what you're doing. You will be constantly reminded of the reason that you're doing this is because you enjoy it, because you're learning something from it. And it's a way of passing time. The drawing is a perfectly legitimate thing to do just for the sake of doing it. It's as acceptable as playing a video game. It's as acceptable as watching TV or going on Facebook. It can just be that. It can just be a thing that you do um, because you like it, and that's allowed. And if you do that on a regular basis, what happens is you get to be more fluid with it. You get to feel more comfortable and you find it easier to express yourself and to use these tools in more and more complex ways, perhaps. Um, and you become more and more comfortable with the idea of being an artist. instead of just uh, being a bystander, and you say to yourself, like, yeah, I can do that. Why not? Let me just continue to experiment because, again, your motivation for doing it is clear to you and isn't about an internal struggle about the quality of what you're doing. It's about being who you are and passing the time, you know? So, yeah, this is what I've been thinking about. And I think that you have the opportunity to use these tools to convince more people about this. I mean, this is the reason that I'm here today. This is the reason that I do the things I do, is because I believe in the power that making stuff in this way has to not only create paintings and drawings that you hang on the wall, but to make you feel better, to make you feel more confident, to make you feel more connected to the world around you, to allow you to express your experiences to other people, and that these things come about over time of doing it. It takes focus to do this because these are new skills that you may not have really even thought of using since you were drawing in fifth, first grade or something like that. So many people just never get back to making art, but once you do, you'll realize how natural it is and how happy it can make you feel. So I don't think the way to do it and the way to communicate the value of it is by doing art that blows people away. It's not about saying, "Oh my God, I wish I could draw that. How did you do that? You're so talented." Leaving that result in people just distances them from the possibility of doing it themselves. Or if you say, "Well, yeah, I've been taking classes and doing this for like 30 years." It's like, yeah, okay, well, good for you. That's completely unapproachable to me. I can't. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not motivated by that. You know, I want something that feels like I could do it. And how could I? And so, I think that's an opportunity that we have to get other people to share the love of doing this thing and realizing how interesting it is and how fun it can be, um, by making it accessible and starting with this really simple thing that says, just try this, do this along with me. Let's draw together and let's make a simple picture and let's make a person. And now we have a person and he is feeling like he's alive. He's not just a stick figure. He has a personality, you know, and that's super fun and gives you a super sense of accomplishment and potential. So and feeling comfortable. I think that's Lydia says it here. I prefer to feel comfortable and less intimidated. Yeah, well, of course we all do. What's the point of having a thing that you do or trying to learn a new thing in order to feel awful about it? So start with these rudimentary things and then start to challenge yourself or start to challenge the other people who are doing it with you and then say, okay, what's the next thing that we can do? Maybe now we can start to draw something simple that we're looking at. But I think that this tool is so useful because of how it makes you feel. And that's a really an essential part of getting somebody to do anything is they have to feel good about it and they have to see why it's of value and they have to see that it's within reach. So that's what I've been thinking about, and I hope that you will help me to um, evangelize as an artist, and to say not I'm an artist, but you're an artist. Um, I learned to do this by starting in simple ways and working my way up. But that each step of the way, it's not like endlessly playing chopsticks, you know? It's not like endlessly doing wind sprints before you can play a sport. it should be rewarding and fun and inspiring and stimulating at every step of the way. So learning really basic, simple things, that's how you get there. So give yourself a break, and if you need one, and failing that, go out and be a missionary for art and for art making. Because I think the more people are comfortable with this idea of themselves as artists, the more they want to support the arts because they understand how important it is. And if you think about the situation that so many art institutions are in right now, they need people to understand the value of going to museums, of going to the theater, going to see live music. We need to understand that art is an essential service too. Art is an essential part of our culture and of who we are as human beings, and it always has been since the beginning of humankind, whether it's painting on a wall or singing a song together around the campfire or acting out a story of something that happened to us as a culture. Art is at the very center of who we are as creatures. And it's not for the wealthy, for the educated, for the sophisticated, for the avant-garde. That's not what it's for. It's for all of us. And every 5-year-old knows this. And we have to fight for this by showing people what it can mean in their lives. And playing little fun art games is a way of getting people to tap back into that and to get them over the fact that they have no talent, that they can't draw, that they've never done it, that they don't have the time, that they, et cetera, et cetera. We have a million reasons for not doing this, but we're cheating ourselves by not allowing this back into our lives. And now more than ever, I think this is really important. And you understand it. You've shown up today to spend time doing this, and you recognize the importance of drawing in your life. So share it, spread it. Come back and show people this video if you want to. Or as I said earlier, if you know somebody who has a job that's an essential service, you can go and send them to our website. I'm sorry, not that one, but yes, it is that one, sketchbookskool.com. At the top, you'll see the Coronavirus Creativity Guide, or you can go directly to this URL, and they can sign up for a free class with us. We've given out over 500 classes already this week to people who are in essential services. So all they need to do is fill out a little form that explains what they do and gives us the contact information so that we can set them up for it, and then they will be able to take one of our courses. They're, it's pretty good value, but they're adding an enormous and essential value to us as a society, so we want to support them. So, all right, well, that was what we were up to today: playing, evangelizing, and we'll see you again tomorrow, and we'll think of something new and different to do. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to do here at the live drawing party, I am always eager to hear about it. If you've made some cool things today that you want to share, please do, and please use this hashtag SBS Drawing Party to share it on social media so I can see it. Thanks again for drawing with me today. Maybe we'll do something super challenging tomorrow, or maybe not. Maybe we'll just chill out and keep having fun. See you then. Again, noon Eastern Standard Time tomorrow here on YouTube and on Facebook. Bye-bye.